Hey everyone, I'm Andrea Ferretti, and this is Yogaland. Welcome back, Jason.
Hi, Andrea.
Last week was a solo cast, so it's nice to have you back.
Oh, it was a solo cast.
It was.
And then I did something the previous week. It
Yes.
was like a technique on grip and the function of shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
we're
here we
back.
are. Here
Yeah.
we are. Before we get into our topic for today, I want to mention that you're wrapping up all the production and all of the work on a new program that you're going to be launching really soon.
Sequencing 2.0.
Sequencing 2.0.
It's ready
Yay.
next week.
Yes.
I mean, by the time everybody hears this,
It'll be just about a week.
it'll be about a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how it's different from sequencing 1.0?
It is different than the art of sequencing. So it has maybe 20% crossover. So I talk a lot about the master sequencing template and a few other concepts. But really, what this is a deep dive into is sequencing beyond one-off individual classes. So really thinking about classrooms as opportunities for continuity and teaching curriculum, teaching series, teaching workshops, and teaching online classes, right? And so this is just going to provide everybody with the knowledge and the scope and the confidence, honestly, to expand their scope as teachers. I am so excited about it. I think it's the best course I've done.
Oh, good.
And my courses are amazing.
Exactly.
No, I'm super happy with it.
As I'm putting together the landing page and learning more about it, I think the thing that sounds really appealing to me is that it's very process oriented. So
Yeah.
you really do breakdowns for them. It kind of reminds me of football where they're like, you're drawing
Okay,
like the thing on the board.
I'm gonna say something about this, okay? Which you know, but this is also another like public outing for me. I have been doing a bunch of strength and conditioning trainings, and I have multiple strength and conditioning certifications now, and will continue to do them. So by doing a ton of like, especially from National Academy of Sports Medicine trainings, they're just really good. And so I have seen certain things in the trainings that I've taken that I have drawn on and incorporated in how they're things that I've added to how I teach online trainings.
Yeah.
I've gotten better at it for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So it's very process oriented, and you really help guide them through a process that then they are then going to be able to scale
Yeah.
depending on what they're teaching. So it's like one process, multiple avenues to use it. And the other thing that I think sounds great about it is that once you have a process, then you can add your own voice and your own
100%.
creativity.
100%.
So it's not about stifling the
N-
creativity or learning a
zero.
script. It's
Zero.
about like feeling really confident in your structure so that you can then layer in who you are as a teacher.
Done. I'm sold. Where do
Yeah.
I sign up?
Yeah. I guess I do need to give a URL.
Don't worry about that right
Okay,
now.
okay.
Don't worry about that. Next fun thing. Super Bowl halftime.
Yeah, you're a Bad Bunny fan now.
Big Bad Bunny guy now.
It's funny because Sophia last night said, I really want to see Bad Bunny. And you were kind of like, okay.
No.
Oh,
No,
really?
I
You weren't?
wasn't dismissing.
Okay,
No, I was
because usually
excited.
with like any kind of popular music, you're just like, oh.
Here's the thing. I really like football and I really like I like the game part. And so
Right.
everything that goes with the Super Bowl, I'm just like by default a little dismissive of.
Right. No,
Right?
I'm not criticizing you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that she
Yeah.
put it. I don't know that either of us would have necessarily. I would have wanted to watch it, but I could have possibly missed it. But she wanted to watch it, and then we put it on, and you and I were both like transfixed.
Totally transfixed.
And she turned around at one point to look at us, and I was like, I'm just really happy.
Yeah. Because I think we were both almost crying.
We were
The whole
both
time.
almost crying. It reminded me so much of our time in Cuba
Yep.
many years ago together.
Yep.
It was everything.
Yeah.
It was everything. It was beautiful. It was joyful. It was meaningful.
Totally.
It was creative.
Yeah.
I loved seeing I've watched it like 3 times now.
Yeah.
I loved seeing older people in it. I loved seeing young kids in the wedding scene. There were all these young kids dancing in the wedding scene, which actually was apparently a real wedding that happened. I loved all the costuming because I really loved for most of the dancers. Like the first female dancers were in like they were all wearing a specific outfit. But then after that it was like regular street clothes. And when we went to Cuba, I remember first of all just music being everywhere. I've never been to a place like that before in my life. I mean, New Orleans kind of has that, but it's even more so. And then people dancing everywhere.
Yeah.
And it would really, I know he's Puerto Rican, not Cuban, but it really just felt so beautiful and familiar.
I'm just going to be really brief about it. So I think two things. One, I want to reflect on Cuba. So I've been to Cuba 4 times. One time you came.
Mm-hmm.
And it was before we were dating. We were friends. You came to this little retreat we did. But the 3 years prior to that, I taught donation based with Cuba U.S. Yoga Alliance Exchange, Cuba U.S. Yoga Exchange. And we taught doctors of sports medicine. We taught in the medical clinics, and it was just an amazing experience that it was so formative for me. And the other thing related more to Bad Bunny, and I don't mean to be like too whatever with this, but it did not matter to me at all that I do not speak Spanish.
Right.
Right. And part of that is like, I have been listening to punk, hardcore, and metal my whole life, which is sung in English, and I don't know what they're saying.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like, I've been listening to the same hardcore records forever, and I still don't know 99% of the lyrics. So
It's
good.
what you feel.
It's what you feel.
It's the sentiment.
For
Also, the
sure.
story that he told was very
Brilliant.
easy to understand.
Brilliant.
It was just about people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And family and dancing and joy. And oh my God, it was just amazing. It was so good.
Yeah. That's the last really fun.
Yeah, we thought we would start out with that because the rest of the topic is
heavy.
Yeah, it's a heavier topic.
Yeah, it's hard.
So I'll just try my best to do some kind of cohesive intro here. It's hard to talk about.
It is hard to talk about.
But we were just thinking, unless you're hiding under a rock, you're aware of the Epstein files. Neither you nor I has spent time. I've spent a tiny bit of time looking at the actual files. Very, very tiny bit of time. I don't think you have it all.
No.
But it doesn't matter. We know
Yeah.
what's in there. And it's monstrous what's in there. And I think we both feel like we want more people talking about it, or at least thinking about it. Want discussion to be open about abuses of power.
Yeah.
And you in particular came up with this idea to talk about, and this is where I don't know how to characterize it, but just like what to know about potential transgressions of power within our community, within yoga or spirituality.
Yeah. There's one other layer to it that I want to bring up, which is I have finally gotten back to training jujitsu again. And right now there's a huge fallout from a sexual predation experience that a lot of has just come out.
A leader who was abusing students.
Exactly.
And they were juveniles.
They were juveniles.
They were children.
Yes, correct. And this has like blown that community into a million pieces, because this was literally the really one of, if not the top school in the world, and one of the most famous, accomplished athletes of all time. And I think that these two things have made me take a moment and think, how do we use this as an opportunity to just step back and look at our own house, the yoga community, and our relationship to it and our position within it, and have a frank, open conversation about the potential for abuse of power. Because the potential for abuse of power in yoga communities, like many other communities, is huge.
Right. And to be honest, to be fair, there have been so many documented cases.
Yes.
I mean, I've
countless
spoken about them on this podcast before. I did a whole podcast about Bikram in 2018. I talked to Patricia Sullivan and Judith Lassiter about abuses of power. Rachel Brathen, back when Me Too, Rachel Brathen is Yoga Girl. Back when Me Too happened, 2018, 2017, she asked people to just submit stories, and I think she got over 300.
Yeah.
So, and I think for so many of us, when we come to something like yoga, or when you find even a religion, there are some parallels to religious communities and yoga communities, or there can be. so often you're in a place where you're looking for answers, you're feeling vulnerable, you're feeling some kind of unmet need. Maybe you're lonely, maybe you just suffered a loss in your life. Maybe you grew up in a really chaotic environment and you're looking for some stability.
Yeah,
And so the worst thing that could happen is to have that sense of vulnerability abused.
correct.
And so that's kind of, I think, a
Yeah.
good starting place for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. And I felt like we should just have a conversation. I wanted to say, especially as, a well-known heterosexual male yoga teacher that has mostly worked with women for 30 years, I kind of wanted to lay out what I perceive as certain red flags or certain cause for concern. Or I'll put it another way. If Sophia, our daughter, or you were going to go to certain classes or certain environments, and there were certain behaviors that were exhibited, those would be behaviors that would give me concern. They don't immediately correlate inherently to abuse of power or
Hmm.
sexual predation, but they're honestly things for me that would like kind of raise
Your hackles up a
my
little bit.
hackles a little bit and just be like, okay, I'm gonna put a kind of like a check mark on this and
Hmm.
think I want to kind of pay a little bit more attention here.
Hmm. Hmm. I also want
Yes.
to mention before we jump into the specifics, uh, someone I follow on social media named Steve Hassan, Hassan, and he is a cult expert and has escaped from a cult. I don't know how you say that, but I think that would be the right way to characterize it. And he has this model for authoritarian abuse or coercive abuse or cult like behavior, and it's the acronym BITE. So it's behavior, information, thought, and emotion. And I think the things that we're going to talk about fit each one. They fit into one of those categories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also want to say one more thing. This is not, I don't mean this to be too much of a caveat, but I think that one of the things that you and I are so good at on this podcast is staying in our relative zone of expertise. And I'm not an expert on abuse of power. I'm not an
Right.
expert on, breaking people free from cults or any of
Right.
these things,
Right.
right? And so there are probably sharper minds than me to speak about the subject, but I am I'm a guy teaching yoga. And like I said, these are things that would give me cause for concern. Again, not necessarily equating to a problem, but these are the things that I would seriously hit pause on.
Okay.
Okay. The first, and I'll phrase it this way, and because the reality is the vast majority of abuses of power happen by men, right? They just do. It's a reality, especially when there's sexual predation involved. So I would say the first big cause for concern for me is a male teacher that is absolutist and black and white in their thinking and in their narrative, and that has single solutions for complex variable questions. And the thing for me that is the troubling thing here is that I think that there's something inside the psyche of someone that is a black and white thinker: right, wrong, yes, no, good, bad. Because in all of those situations, that person is going to think they are on the cause of righteousness. They're going to think, if you are a black and white thinker and a teacher, you're never going to be like, I'm the one that was completely wrong and someone else was completely right. I'm the one that was completely wrong and that student was completely right with what they needed with their own body.
Hmm.
If you are a black and white thinker that has this like very reductive understanding of the world, you are right all the time. And that, again, does that inherently equate to a problem? No. But I wouldn't even want to be in an argument with that person.
No, and I would argue that it does not fit under the umbrella of yoga philosophy or Buddhist philosophy,
It does not.
right? Because
However, in both of those communities, there's a lot of this archetype.
I agreed, but I just wanted to ground it in when we talk about discernment,
Yes.
we're talking about how to use critical thought to interpret a situation, and that critical thought could change depending on the situation. And so the words critical thought come to mind for me when you talk about this. And so I think just to kind of expand on what you're saying, um, a teacher who does not allow critical thought
Yeah.
in their discussions, in their classrooms, if you went up to a teacher after class and asked them a question and you immediately saw a defensiveness or a shaming, quite honestly, like people who are black and white thinkers and who can't um, who can't handle being questioned. Thinking of, I've had this in my own life, not in yoga, uh,
Even closer to home,
uh,
but not this home.
and not my husband. Will publicly shame.
Yeah.
It's a power move,
Yeah.
right? So not allowing critical thought, not allowing questions that are not shamed, being in a position or positing themselves in a position of absolute authority
Yeah.
those would be red flags for me.
Big time. And this isn't to say that a teacher can't have a point of view.
Sure.
I have strong points of view on pretty much everything, right? Like literally everything. It's obnoxious. And having a strong point of view doesn't mean that that you need to diminish other points of view, right? I mean, it's really, really crucial. And I want to just go into the next point because I think it's deeply related to this one, but to me, there's an additional layer to it, which is teachers. Again, it can be any teacher. It's most likely to be male. That not only are black and white, reductive, singular point of view teachers, but believe that they are justified based by their correct, singular interpretation of the truth of what the history of yoga says, or what the canon of yoga says, or what the scripture of yoga says, or what X, Y, and Z teacher said from the past. I was kind of thinking about like this. There are some people that just feel like they have the decoder ring, right? And I'm just like, literally, I'm kind of throwing that out there to just like a little bit make fun of that, tease that.
Yeah.
It's like this, it's like, well, what yoga really says. Yeah, right there, like right there, pause. Because I'm going to tell you, from my perspective, a teacher that believes that they have the singular correct interpretation of yoga and its traditions and teachings, I'm going to tell you, I think that comes from three things. Number one, poor education, right? Number two, self delusion. Number three, someone that just actually lies, that knows that they don't know. They know that they don't know, right? So either you're not educated well enough to know that the history and the teaching of the vast cultures and communities and teachings that comprise yoga are diverse unto themselves. There's not a singular technique for anything. There's not a singular interpretation of anything. There never has been. And so if you believe you have it, and this is what they really taught, this is the real, then either you don't have the education that's broad enough that you understand the truth of the multiplicity of teachings and communities that comprise this culture, or you just are self-delusional, or again, like I said, three, you're just BSing. You're just BSing. And I kind of want to throw this out there, which is, I think that any and all communities can have abuses of power and predation, for sure. But this is the one that I'm in. And what I'll tell you about this community is we don't have a lot of oversight.
No.
We don't have a lot of oversight, everybody. We don't. Teachers, we come, we go, the studio is short staffed, there's not boards. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but the relative level of education to become a teacher is relatively low.
Hmm.
And again, this is not to shame yoga teachers. I'm a yoga teacher,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like for 30 years, I'm a yoga teacher. Um, but it's just to kind of say that because we don't have much oversight and because the barriers to entry are relatively low, and most students don't know that, this can be an environment where those true believing narcissistic archetypes can really like go. They can really make some headway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel honestly like sick talking about this. It's so interesting what it's bringing up in
Yeah.
me. Um, you know, as I said, like I've experienced narcissism in my own life, and like have some trauma associated with that. And in a way, I feel really fortunate that I didn't fall into a bad yoga situation because like you said, um there are people who are delusional. And I'm going to bring up my next one, which is being cognizant of charisma. And, I think, especially if you come from any kind of abusive situation or abusive background, you want to be loved so badly. I know this for myself. You want to be accepted, you want to be seen. And there are a lot of people who are really good at doing that, but are not fully whole themselves. So they might seem like they're so warm and so welcoming, and they really see you and they give you attention that you feel you're like a plant, like absorbing light, that you feel like you need. But too much charisma and has just never I,
Well, I think a way to say it, and I think also like a word that needs to be said in this conversation is charisma is attractive.
mhm.
People can be very attracted to charisma, right? Especially when it's situational, right? So when like when someone is charismatic and they have a leading role, people will be there's something where you want to be part of that. And I don't necessarily mean attraction as in sexually attractive.
Right.
I mean, I think it's normal to want to be connected to people or entities or institutions or whatever it is that you admire,
Yeah, people want to
right?
belong.
Yeah,
It's a human trait.
we all do, right? And so those aren't bad things, but they are something where I think students need to be mindful of that. We need to be mindful of, oh, I love so and so's class because of their charisma, because they exude, because so forth and so on. And charisma in and of itself is not problematic, but I do think we have to be mindful of our own psycho-emotional response to being drawn into people and environments that have gravitas, right?
Right.
That they have that, like literally that have gravity. Like people can get drawn into that,
Mhm.
and it can feel really good. Everyone wants to be seen.
Mhm.
Everyone wants to feel like they're part of something important. So
But you
again,
want to look for someone with healthy boundaries,
100%.
right? So you want to look for someone, even if they are charismatic, or if you're just drawn to them because they're so wise or they're speaking so well and they're so warm. I think of like Jack Hornfield, who to me, I adore his teaching. I just have always respected him so much, but I've met him several times. He's never been like charismatic with me one on one. He's never,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
he's a person who has appropriate psychological
yeah.
boundaries. And so I would say the combination of something like charisma and love bombing would be where you would really know there's a problem here.
Talk more about that, the love bombing part.
Just someone who, like, let's say you went up to a teacher after class, you were just excited. I think of myself as like a young woman going up to T.S. Little, like after he taught an anatomy workshop and just being like, wanting to just tell him how much I loved it. And he was just like, oh, well, thank you so much. Great. Okay. It's so nice to meet you. What's your name? And then moved along. The opposite of that would be someone who, engaged you in conversation and then just told you how special you were or made you feel like you were the most special student or really kind of pulled you away from the classroom situation and was I don't know, love bombing to me is like women who've experienced it, you just know it.
Yeah. No, I think I appreciate that
Yeah.
for sure.
It's just making you feel like you're special even if they don't really know you.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's weird.
That's the thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Or, I mean, I think of love bombing in dating too, and like just regular dating would be someone who just inappropriately gets overexcited about you and makes you believe that they really see you and that they really know you and they pile it on and there's no basis for it.
Got it.
And
Got it.
if you're a plant like needing water, needing sunlight, you might absorb it and just feel finally loved or finally seen.
Right. Right. Good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's
Okay.
hard to be human.
It is. It is.
Okay. One of the things you talked about with me before that I want to make sure we don't miss is a much more practical one, which is discouraging you from taking someone else's class or from cross training or doing anything else.
I have always been of the belief that I'm not anyone's only teacher. And to be quite honest, I don't want that pressure. I don't want that expectation.
Yeah.
I really don't. That's not that I don't want to own your practice
Your
or your
headspace.
headspace.
Yeah.
Good God. I know myself well enough to be like, listen, take me with a grain of salt
Well,
and
also
then
just
have a Stephanie Snyder aftershot or
yeah, like
something.
you have a
I
lane of expertise. Other people have their lanes of
totally,
expertise or you can be drawn to different kinds of people.
totally. And I just feel like the vast majority of teachers, especially in a modern setting, they have a couple of different teachers that they resonate with, and they resonate with them for different reasons. And you might go to, like I said, like a Steph or an Amy or, a Rusty class or whoever it is, because you want more like overt spiritual narrative, you want music, you might want to chant. I'm not going to deliver that as well, right? And I don't want to make myself try to deliver that well. And I don't want to limit your interests to my expertise,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I always want to do what I do as well as I can do it. But I never assume that the scope of what I teach is the totality of what there is to learn, right? Also, I think it's insane in a modern era with the access to information that we have to not explore and educate. Like, I literally have an undergraduate degree in the philosophy of interdisciplinary studies. This is my undergraduate philosophy degree. How could I not want you, if you're interested, to go to other people's yoga classes, but also go to a running coach, go to a strength and conditioning coach? Like, of course, I want you to do those things if you're interested in those things. There's only one way that there's only one scenario that I can perceive of someone not wanting you to do those things. And that's if I know I'm BS.
Yeah, you're just
Right?
so insecure. Your
I'm
ego
so
needs.
insecure. I don't want you to, I'm so insecure and I'm so fragile. Hopefully this won't get caught into a single thing, but right. Like, I would have to be so insecure and so fragile and so unconfirmed in my belief in what I do to keep you from also going somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be like, well, but you only have so much time to practice yoga to go really deep into what I'm teaching. You have to stay in this scenario. No,
Mm-mm.
no, sorry. Nope. I'm not buying that argument for a second.
Yeah.
I've been around the block way too long. Way too long. Don't buy it for a heartbeat.
It's so interesting. This is so much where like our liberal arts backgrounds like really comes. I mean, we're just the product of our, and
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
just, again, critical
Yeah.
thinking. And you do not get to control my thought
No,
process. You do not get to control my education. Therefore, you do not get to control me.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. What else have we got? We've got love bombing. We've got, oh, go ahead.
The other one in there, which I want to be cautious of because I really don't, when I
Oh,
say this, I don't believe that I'm speaking of any singular community, but I have always been very, very reticent around yoga communities that have what I perceive as pecking orders.
mm-hmm,
Or kind of another way I think about it is concentric zones, concentric circles of influence and access,
mm-hmm.
right? This is even everybody, this is one of the reasons I've almost never worked with assistants. Almost never. Like Chelsea was my assistant and Jack was my assistant in my 300
And
hour
Laura.
trainings, and Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there were some others here and there, but those people were so close to me, and I have such trust in those people and their emotional depth and their moral compuncture. Or am I saying that right word right? They're like their moral compass.
Yeah.
But I've never really wanted to have more like assistant this and assistant that. To me, it just sets up this very in out group, this like concentric level 1 access, level 2 access, level 3 access, penthouse suite access. And I feel like it just creates I think it creates vulnerability in the community
Mm-hmm.
because it creates a pathway to the top.
Exactly.
So and I think this can be really unconscious for people, right? But it's a pathway to top. It literally is a tiered system where if you are vulnerable to any of the things that we're talking about, you're like, oh, I bet I bet I could get to zone 1 level of influence. I bet I could get to,
Or you
I
just
bet I could
want
meet
it.
the
You just
roadie.
internally want it, right?
Yeah.
You might not even be conscious.
Yeah.
You're just like, if I work hard enough, if I'm good enough, I'll
Yeah.
get promoted into this level or I'll get access to that level. And then I'll be real. I'll be
Yeah.
really a part of the group and it's so aspirational.
Yeah.
And it's so damaging to people who have any like self-esteem issues at all.
You have to understand that from like a business development perspective, it's genius because it gets people in the funnel,
Yeah.
right? You kind of get a little bit stuck. You're like, well, I made it all the way to level 1. I got to make it to level 2.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so that the like leveling structure. And I think this is different than what I and countless other teachers do, which is we have a 200-hour teacher training program and we have an advanced teacher training program. That's different. Those are different zones of specific education, right? Or, we spoke at the beginning, sequencing 2.0, right? This is kind of different. This is more something that is culturally embedded and institutionalized, and it is a very strategic business decision
Mhm.
because it does get people when they do step 1 to want to do step 2. Now, I don't want to equate a strategic business decision with an inherent abuse of power. Again, like
No, and I also
everything
think
has to be taken in. All these things, they have to be taken into context. But like I said at the beginning, these are all things that for me, they're things for me as a teacher, like deeply embedded in this community and culture for so long, that make me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I also think like maybe using the word level isn't correct because there are plenty of like level 3 yoga classes versus level 1 yoga
Yeah,
classes
yeah,
that
yeah.
make sense.
Yeah.
But like you said, these kind of like circles of influence, sometimes they're silent within communities.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like, are you a part of the entourage, right?
Mhm.
Or are you tier 2? Like, do you have access to this level of knowledge or that level of knowledge? So it's sometimes a little bit invisible until you're getting more deeply into a system.
Yes.
But it is, yeah, anyway, it is definitely something that has been done and is leaves people open to abuse, right? Because once you have that internal drive to quote unquote get to the top, then the person who's at the top can do whatever they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have one more.
Okay.
How are we going to handle it? Do you remember what it is?
I think so. I just, it is a really tricky one.
It's a really tricky one.
So basically, it's just thinking about, well, here's how I would put it. In more modern yoga asana, so I would say like in the last 50 years, I actually don't know. I'm going to be honest, like I don't know before then if it was a thing. But in the
I don't think
last
we should
50
date it.
years or so,
Yeah.
physical hands-on adjustments have been a part of yoga practice and teaching. And we feel, actually, it's interesting. We feel a little differently about it because
I'm way more conservative about it.
You're more conservative. I grew up as a dancer where you were touched all the time, and it was I started in the Ashtanga system with female teachers. I don't feel like I was abusively touched at all. I felt like that physical hands-on touch helped me, like would help wake up parts of my body or actually understand the shape of a pose more easily than just watching it. I will also say I've been injured lots of times through touch too. So once I got to the point where I felt like I understood where to put my body, I didn't want to be touched anymore. And I made that really clear. And that was always respected. So I'm making this much longer than it needs to be, but there is this at least short history of hands-on adjustments. And you and I came up in a time when there was like no understanding of trauma, no understanding of just no understanding of trauma, quite honestly. And so there was no choice given to us as to whether or not we were touched.
The first time I heard that Judith Lassiter asked people if she could touch them, I was like, that's crazy.
Right. We just thought it was
crazy.
So normal.
Right.
And now we're grateful that she started doing that. Many, many studios have the chips that you can put on your mat if you don't want to be touched or you do or whatnot. So I am not inherently as opposed to it as you are. However, my advice to someone would be follow your gut. If you feel like you don't want to be touched like that ever again, you get to say that to a teacher. And if that is met with something off, again, follow your gut. That's probably not a teacher you want to go back to. That's what I would say.
I think that's good. And I'm just going to speak my direct experience. Okay. I used to love adjusting people. I actually still love adjusting people. I think it's really fun. And I think that in the vast majority of yoga classes, as a reminder, it's safe. It's good. It's amazing. Like, we haven't quit. We haven't left these communities. We still believe in these practices. So the vast majority of touch and adjustments that happen are instructional and
we
supportive.
think, I mean, we don't really know, but we think.
But here's the for me buts. And I've told my teacher training communities this for a very, very long time. I was saying one day, this is like super, like this very pivotal moment. I was saying, as a teacher, you can't control how people hear what you say, because this will happen to me all the time. People will be like, hey, I took your class in Chicago and I remember you said blah, 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 blah. And I'm hearing this and being like, I totally didn't say that. Right. Not that it was bad, but I'm like, okay, the way
they just took it in differently and processed
this happens with everything. It's communication. How I perceive your tone or what you say, even though we're married, I might be wrong sometimes, right?
Sure.
Okay. And so as a teacher, and vice versa. And so as a teacher, I know that I can't control how people hear what I say. I know that. And I'm okay with that, because that's something I can't control. I'm not okay with there being a miscommunication in touch.
Yeah.
So if I think about verbal communication as you are going to interpret it through your interpretive
Lens.
centers, right? And I'm going to do my best to be clear, right? And I know what I'm saying, but you're hearing what you're hearing. I'm okay with that. I am not okay with having physical communication interpreted in a way that I don't mean it.
Yeah.
I know how I have always meant touch. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But if I can't control how someone perceives what I say, I know I can't perceive how someone interprets my touch.
Yeah.
And that puts that person and me in a position I refuse to be part of.
Right.
Right. So for me, it becomes this very, for me again, and I will say it, I, as a straight male, mostly working with women, I just feel like it is the simplest, cleanest, most boundaried way that I can help ensure clarity in my intentions and my relationship with my students. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to add something slightly different because I remembered it after I finished my point, which is if you are a teacher. So I've had lots of teachers, many teachers have a problem when I've let them know that their touch has hurt or that it's not something I want them to do again. Or like I've had teachers want me to partner with someone and someone sit on my back and I've been like, no. And I've been made fun of. I mean, it's ridiculous. So if you are a teacher listening to this and you are going to put your hands on someone, you need to be responsible for being flexible and responsive if they tell you they don't want to be touched, or
Yes.
if they tell you, even if it's not a sexual interpretation, but if it's a that hurt, or I have an injury there, that's not going to work for me. You're not the authority on someone else's body. And that's kind of that's the main problem I've had with more modern teaching is like, it's, there's an assumption often that if it worked on 100 bodies before you, it's going to work on your body too. And that
Yeah.
is so faulty.
This is its own like massive topic,
Yeah.
right? There's another thing that I want to share, which is in personal training or the strength and conditioning world, you do not touch your clients. You don't touch them.
Well, at Equinox, they do like they stretch you at the end.
That's weird.
I think it's weird too.
That's weird. And I'll tell you from the associations that I'm like the high level associations, they're like, you do not touch clients unless you have a massage therapy or a physical
Yeah.
therapy. Like unless you have certification around that, right? So again, I think part of the reason that this whole conversation, but particularly this conversation can be really difficult is because we have embedded as tradition,
Mm.
right? We have embedded as tradition in many schools a lot of touch. And I don't want to throw all those things under the bus. And I don't want to say all those things are wrong. What I'm saying is the way I interpret to me, it goes to the level of importance for mental and emotional safety to me to to maybe even be um, over regulated with personal boundaries,
Hmm.
right? And I don't know. I'll also say this is I don't know if I was a woman teaching women, if I was a heterosexual woman teaching mostly women, I don't know if I would have a different real. I might be more hands on. I'm
Right.
not worry about it. But the conversation to me is, you know, it it is so this to me this is just a place that it just makes all the more sense in the world to be conservative. And I'm going to tell you something also from a technical perspective. If I can't verbally or visually communicate you into a pose, you have no business being in that pose. If you need external leverage to get
Right,
into a
that's true.
shape, we should, I think, from the like, I know that can be fun and feel good, but in terms of the reward situation, I just don't, I don't even see it's close. One more quick thing. I have trained a lot of guys, like a lot of guys, a lot of guys. And the I have had many of them over the years come up to me and be like, I don't touch anybody. I'm happy that we've had the conversations we've had. You're right. Like, I'm in that classroom and I think it's just easier
Yeah.
from a professional clarity sake to not do it. And again, one more thing. This doesn't mean like all touch is creepy. I mean, there can be amazing facilitation of movement, but for me,
I think there are probably a lot of women and people out there that are grateful to hear that, to be quite
for
honest.
sure.
Well, hopefully this has been a helpful conversation for the listeners out there. As you mentioned at the top of the show, we are not psychologists, we're not authorities on this topic, but we have been in the yoga world a long time. We've seen a lot of things, we've seen a lot of teachers, and we wanted to just have an open dialogue about this.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having this conversation. And yeah, talk again soon.
All right, we'll see you next week.